Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk more tactically about some of the things the finance team will need to do to manage the business through the economic downturn. Things like cash flow management, managing receivables. I know a lot of the customers that we work with are already starting to slow down in receivables and extension in DSOs. Tim and Wayne and Andy, like, are you guys seeing your customers taking longer to pay yet, or still not
Uh,
there?
so
For sure.
yeah, we have on our end, we have kind of like startups, SMB, and enterprise customers. So our startups and the SMBs, they are for sure, they're either taking a long time to pay because of they want to renegotiate payment terms, they want to contract their subscriptions, or they're flat out of business. Um, you know, we we unfortunately have to write off debts of those customer kind of personas. However, the MRR is small enough where okay, we're okay. But if we have an enterprise customer that not going to pay us, that's a huge problem. But most of our customers that are paying on time are enterprise customers because we shifted from, hey, proof of concept. Now it works. Now let's get the big dollar customers. So it's been helpful with that shift. It kind of like a net. It offsets the SMB startups.
Got it.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm seeing the same problem with SMBs in our clients. They're paying slower, they're having trouble, they're struggling. Whereas enterprise, they don't pay fast, but they pay consistently.
Yeah.
And they pay more, so they're bigger. And there's other reasons that most startups go through this thing where they deal with SMB and build their credibility and build their brand and build all these things, and then gradually move up to enterprise as their credibility increases, and they want to do more things. And in this environment, if you're getting any natural pull up to enterprise, just on accounts receivable alone, I would say, don't fight the feeling. Go with the universe on that one and try to move up market now, because if you can, those larger customers will be around and they will pay you. They might take 60 days, but they'll pay you consistently. Whereas the SMBs are much riskier from an accounts receivable standpoint going into these tougher market conditions.
See, from my perspective, what I've seen is it maybe is not necessarily external that's causing a buildup in AR, but it may be internal. Why I bring that up is a lot of the times, some customers, when you're a small business, you just need a touch. You have to reach out, hey, you need something, and then the customer goes, oh, shoot, I forgot to send. Without that little nudge, people will just simply forget. And so while you're trying to manage a lot of different things, Andy, I think you mentioned this earlier, is you got this CEO or COO wearing a lot of hats, doing a lot of things, trying to manage a raise, trying to do this, trying to do that. These collections sometimes are not getting nudges anymore. So it'll simply build your AR because you're missing that nudge. So it may be time to revisit, maybe I need to reprioritize certain tasks in order to monopolize on things.
So, Wayne, just to add on to that, what are some of the other things that finance can do to nudge customers or help bring in collections and AR faster?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've done recently is hire like a collections or AR team, just so that the majority of their work is to bill and collect. That person is kind of the connect between the customer and our internal customer service teams, to make sure that, hey, whatever we need to do to make sure the customer is paying, we make it happen. Another issue is, okay, we have customers that are over X amount of days due. What do we do? We are sending those bad uncollectible items to a collections agency. There are a lot of them out there. There is no one good one, so you just need to find one that can help collect those what we deem uncollectible items, so that you can focus on collecting other balances. because at the end of the day, you can only do so much on bad balances. So once you can't do anymore, let our collection agency do it, and then you focus on what you can collect. The third one is just taking a look at collections in general, like what type of customers are not paying on time. You can look at it by customer segment / persona. You look at what's their MRR size of the customers that aren't paying, and understand like what are the type of customers that are not going to give you money, so that you can have kind of like a trend of hey, these are the type of customers we may not want in our ecosystem in the future. That are some of the things that we're doing now at Apptopia.
And so do you go back to the go-to-market teams and try to get them to kind of adjust their focus?
Absolutely. Yep. We provide that recommendation to them, and hopefully they adjust, which most of the time they do.
There's also some tactical things you can do with the sales team, and encouraging them to help you on the collection side if you can't afford to hire a collector. If you don't pay commission, if right now probably most people are paying commissions based on bookings because that's how you start. But when you start paying on bookings collected, all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of new allies helping you. It's tough to get past the sales leadership. They hate it when you do that. But if you say, if we don't get paid, nobody gets paid. So, by persuasive logic or appealing to the CEO or whatever you need to do, getting the salespeople committed to being part of your team by not just using clawbacks, but by using that we pay commissions based on collected balances, changes the dynamic dramatically. It's tactical. It obviously works on the collection side, but you may incur some hatred from the sales team. So be it. Also, we had a very specific situation at a client where sales was responsible for filling in a field called the AP contact at the customer. So the collections people had a contact, and they were putting in TBD at TBD.com and other bogus things like that. So it's just a $50 strike. Every time you do that, it's $50 out of your commission payment. And even if you fix it, it's too late. You do it every time. So there's tactical, stupid things that you have to do to get people to comply with, the best practices here, making things collectible.
I wish I could deduct $50 out of their commission for every mistake, but yeah, all salespeople, they're not known for accuracy.
Steve,
but
I
do.
point. Sorry.
No, I'm all set.
Steve, one other point I wanted to call out is we spend a lot of our days in ARR, and I need to go raise money, and what's my CLV to CAC, and what is my growth rates and rule of 40 and all that. And all those metrics are incredibly valuable because that's how you're going to make it to the next 18 months. To get to there sometimes, though, we as finance professionals don't sometimes look at the fundamentals. So things like days sales outstanding, it's one that sometimes we kind of ignore because we're going, we have to get to these other metrics that investors care about. But those particular things can highlight problems. And so going to Wayne's point of customer banding and saying this segment has really accelerated, let's double down there. Or let's change our efforts where we're not spending as much time, and maybe change comp plans as we enter into the 2023 budgeting cycle, where the plans now include those things if we start observing days sales outstanding going up. So it goes back to the whole clean data and making sure it's organized so that you can make actionable decisions off of the fundamental building blocks that we all grew up with.
Andy, can you give us some advice? Like what's a good way to start developing a cash forecasting process if you don't have one? And how do you make it so that it's not just this mammoth effort and having to go out and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on software and stuff? Is it an easy way to get started?
I've done this at every one of my client companies. We've put in a weekly cash flow forecast. I've done it for years, but I'm doing it again for the current environment, especially. And it's very simple. You start with the actual cash balance, start, from the bank balance at the end of the week on Friday, post that number, and then forecast what you think you're going to collect in the next week and what you think you're going to pay out in accounts payable payments in the next week. And then run that out 8 or 10 weeks or 12 weeks into the future. and then each week update it for what actually happened. And what you'll find, and some of the folks on the call here that are doing this have, I'm sure, found is when you start doing that, it's like, I don't know how to predict when customers are going to pay me. And I don't know, predict when I just pay my payables when they're, come due. And I really, haven't really looked at this. This is going to be really hard. Turns out in about 3 or 4 weeks, you get significantly better at doing this because you go, oh, I missed this one. I didn't see that one. It's very quick. You get better at forecasting cash flow. And I highly recommend the weekly thing because it just keeps it front and center. And I do it in a Google Sheet. It's just beginning cash, expected receipts, expected disbursements, typically by customer and by vendor. And then you run it out for 12 weeks. And you know what the short-term thing where you might have a cash, short-term cash need or something and big collections that you really need to focus on. It highlights all of that stuff and it's easy. And then you just, each week, you take the bottom line of what I think my cash balance is going to be, and you copy and paste the values down below and keep that as a track record. And you find that as you do that, you get better and better and better at forecasting what the future is going to look like the next 8, 10, 12 weeks. And then you just keep adding a week to the end of the thing on the right side of the thing. The Google Sheet, collaborative, everybody that needs to see it can see it. And I've been doing that at clients now, and people are loving it because, as I say many, many times, it's good to get paid.